There we go. I saw the red light. Action, racing.
There we are. Migrating to Australia podcast. Our first live stream, David. Hello, David Bongiorno.
Grant Williams, how are you on this fine Friday? I had to think for a minute what day it is. It's a bit like that with the lockdown or with everybody at home. How is everybody at home? Well, I hope. Keeping safe, breathing easily.
Hopefully everyone's finding things to do. My little white prehistoric MacBook that I lug around with me everywhere. Well. It's been wiped down, it's sterilised, and it's now looks like a brand new 9-year-old computer. So.
But that computer is the secret to your existence. It holds all the treasures, and it's the magic we use for the podcast.
Oh, it's rock solid, mate. Rock solid.
Apple products back then. I had a PowerBook 100, lasted 7 years. Dropped it. Is it from the same era? PowerBook 100, mine's going back to the start of the millennium, actually. No, it's going back even further. So yours is probably a more contemporary version.
Yeah, mine, I think, is 2015, I think.
Yours is much younger and more modern than mine ever was.
It's one of the white ones. Remember, you used to see all the students with all the private school kids had a white MacBook, and all the high school kids had some black Windows hack. So yeah,
I've got a stand, and I didn't try it out before we went live. So I'm actually holding my iPad because I don't want it to come crashing down. I think the stand will be strong enough to support it. So next time we'll give it a run. The Apple products get the plug. Let's get into it. Hey, all right. What are you reading? I mean, Peter Doherty, I think, is somebody that we should all follow. Professor Peter Doherty. There's a lot of news out there. It's contradictory. It's scary.
I'm sort of mixing my news sources from ABC, BBC, and the selected sort of independent news in the States. None of the official stuff in the States is being honest about how bad it's going to be there. I don't think, anyway. News.com.au is pretty scary, and the graphic designers are having a field day with, aggressive, frightening graphics. Unnecessary. The graphs are interesting, aren't they? In that
the graphs are,
we're tracking to be in some parts of Australia to be very badly affected. So that's really why we're talking about this now, because this could be going on for quite some time, and
3-6 months, and there are a lot of people here on temporary visas. So that's why we're having a brief chat today.
So let's talk. Sorry, David. No, go ahead, because you've prepared your hit list. So how about we start?
Time of coronavirus.
How about we start with students, because they're, as we've talked about before, one of the biggest economic foreign currency earners for the country, and the school year, the university year has begun. So
everybody's doing online classes.
Everybody's here. That's the main point. There's a whole heap of people here. So what has the government done to cater for?
Nothing yet in terms of financial aid, but schools in session.
Well, they have done one thing, haven't they? If you've started your classes and you're enrolled, you can work more than you could before.
That's a source of confusion for a lot of people. But as we speak today, Friday, what is Friday? The 27th. 26th. The story is this: if you are already working in the supermarket sector, you can work more than 40 hours a fortnight. You've got to be in the supermarket sector already. You can't get a job now, as he scratches his nose. You cannot get a job now and then work more than 40 hours a fortnight. It's for people who are already enrolled in the sector. If you do get a job, that's fantastic. But the 40 hours a fortnight is the rule when school's in session. But if you were already working in the supermarket sector before the announcement was made about extended hours for supermarket workers, you can work more than 40 hours a fortnight. Does that make sense? You've got to have had a job in supermarket shelf stacking, working in the supermarket before the announcement was made about extended hours.
Well, it does when you talk about the supermarket sector, but the way I heard the announcement when it was made was that international students who are working now can increase their hours.
Aged care sector is the other one.
So
If you're in the aged care sector, as a nurse, nurses aide, whatever you're doing as a student in the aged care sector, if you're already in the aged care sector, you can avail yourself of more than 40 hours a fortnight while school's in session. School's in session now; it's just online. Don't be mistaken to think school's not in session. It is in session. It's online. It's not physical presence on campus. Though some schools only, believe it or not, Grant, some of the schools just recently went to online. You would have thought that they'd be going to online like weeks ago. Story is, be in the aged care sector before the announcement was made, you'll be able to work more than 40 hours a fortnight. Be in the supermarket sector before the announcement was made about extended hours, and you can work extended hours.
So this is where it's very, very confusing, because the government has put out in their communications that everyone who has a job, that's an essential job. They're essential. And when I heard the announcement that they'd increased the working hours for international students, I took that to be for everybody who is working.
It has to come. It hasn't come. It has not come, but it has to come, because these international students do all the jobs that need to be done that people locally can't do or won't do. And they've got to support themselves while they're here. They have to support themselves while they're here. They have to. If they've lost employment in other sectors, they've got to open it up so that, I would personally love each and every student to have unlimited work rights. It would be fantastic. It would help them. It would help us. But as it stands, they are governed by the rule, 40 hours a fortnight until further notice, unless already employed pre-announcement in aged care and supermarket industries.
So no, there's no other industries
Not yet. I mean, it's a fluid situation, and no announcements overnight. I think there'll be a 9:20. Grant, why does he do 9:20 press conferences? Why isn't Morrison doing 8:30 press conference or an 8 o'clock? 9:20 so random. Cabinet meeting tonight, I think, and the story is one more press conference tonight. Anything could happen over the weekend, but people listening who are students, 40 hours a fortnight. If you're not in the sector of supermarkets and you're not in the sector of aged care, you still got the 40 hour a fortnight rule.
One of the problems I'm thinking is going to come up very quickly is that none of these students are able to leave, but none of them will be eligible for any kind of support. And
we don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
Well, so far, but it's unlikely that the government's going to open up Centrelink payments for international students.
I'd agree with that, but obviously we've got to wait and see what happens. As we were discussing a little bit earlier, this is going to be a realistic problem till at least August. So we don't know what the government will do in such a long period of time, because we've got the end of March now. We've got April, May, June, July, August. It's a long time.
And the difficulty in terms of the social impact that I can see coming down the track is that when we're all being told to socially isolate, that means that we're going to find it very difficult to reach out and support international students that we might know. That we might not know them well, but we might know them. But we're not supposed to have any contact with people. I know. It makes it really, really difficult.
It makes it very, very difficult. It's why, but I mean, once again, it's why you and I are isolating and doing this rather than in my office on St Kilda Road. We're doing it over StreamYard.com. There will be methods to reach out to people. They're not as intimate and as direct as face-to-face contact. But in the circumstances, we've got no other choice.
I'm really concerned about people who may have had part-time work. They lose it because so many businesses are either completely ending or people are just having to pull the reins in, and they're letting everybody who's a casual or a part-timer go.
Give the bullet or stand down. I mean, there's a lot of standing down, but I mean, You know,
But-
it's almost the
those
same
pe-
thing in this scenario.
Well, if you're a casual and you work in a store that has to close, and you're an international student, I mean, that's going to be a huge problem.
That's why they have to drop the 40-hour a fortnight. They have to, and they have to have unlimited work rights, not only while school's not in session, but while school's in session.
Because it's going to take a long time to recover, which is
Take a long time to recover. Absolutely, there's no argument there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what else do we need to tell? Do we need to tell
people
students?
who are on tourist visas, there are a lot of people who've come out for holidays. A lot of people out here, you know, big season for weddings. A lot of people out here for weddings, see their children marrying in Australia. A lot of people coming out on holidays because it's a nice time of the year. They're going to be stuck as well. So people on 651 visas, ETAs, will need to make application for onshore tourist visas, 600 visas, so that they can stay here. People from Western Europe, people from Southeast Asia are very unlikely to have waivers on no further stay conditions on their tourist visas. People coming from India, mainland China, or not mainland China, people who have come from mainland China who are here, people from the subcontinent, they will have waivers more than likely. People from Iran, the same. What they'll have to do is make application for the 8503, 8534, 8535 conditions to be removed from their visas before they apply for a new visa.
Now, without talking individual situations, in general, if you have a visa,
you can't make application for another visa onshore, but for specific visas such as protection visas and a few others. So basically, if somebody comes on a tourist visa or an electronic travel authority from wherever, and they have 8503, 8534, 8535 conditions, one of those, they'll have to apply for a new tourist visa online, but they'll have to get a waiver done first. The waiver must come before an application for a tourist visa is made. The problem is if they apply for a waiver and leave it too late and the department doesn't make a decision, then they become unlawful. You've got to have the waiver made, application for waiver made, and an outcome delivered back to you before you can lodge a tourist visa, a new tourist visa.
Is applying for the waiver a difficult process?
It's not a difficult process, but you've got to use the right form and also make sure you're accurate in your information, and everything you put is a reflection of everything you put in your previous visa. So answering questions consistently for any visa in any time and any subsequent visa is vital. You never, ever want to be inconsistent at any time for any visa or any waiver.
So a suggestion would be that if you have used an agent, migration agent, get onto them quick, smart,
apply for a waiver.
And if you didn't, now's the time to reach out to one.
That's it, correct. If you've done your own ETA and you're a bit overwhelmed by what's required for a tourist visa, if you're on an ETA, you won't have a waiver. But if you're still overwhelmed by what's required for a tourist visa, there are people like me that can help. The story is be lawful, hold visa, apply for new visa. Don't let yourself become unlawful.
So can I put a scenario to you, Dave, that well, I'm thinking this is what's going to happen. There's going to be people who are here from somewhere who haven't been able to get a flight.
That's right.
They've all been wound back. Maybe their tourist visa or special business visa, whatever category they've come on, expires in the middle of next week.
That's it. So they've got to move quickly. They've got to move very, very quickly. They can't delay in any shape or form. People who do their own visas should be cognizant of what's required. People who've had third parties do them and can't get that third party or want to do it themselves need to be aware. You don't want to be making mistakes in this period. It's vital. It's vital that everything is done in a timely fashion and an accurate and consistent fashion. If you can't remember what you did with your IMI account, if you can't remember what you did for your visa, go back to your IMI account, print it off. There you've got your answers for your record of responses for your 600 visa if you've done one. Now, people, what I want to see and what I hope to see, in addition to students being looked after and the 40 hours a fortnight condition being removed so all students can work at any time, anywhere, I want to see that happen for people on 457s and 482 working visas as well, because some of them might have left. Some of them, well, I had somebody, one of my clients, just say, well, I'm out of here. They lost their work because of the economic downturn through coronavirus, and they returned to their home country before flights became difficult. If you're not in that position, you're unable to finance a trip back home, or if you're in a position where you're just lost, you need to apply. You need to reach out and speak to someone who can help. Does that make sense? I don't want people feeling they're lost.
Well, it sort of at the moment feels like that, because it's
there will be a lot of lost people.
Yeah.
Reach out. I'm manning my phones 8 till 8, 7 days a week in this scenario. Everybody's working from home in my team, but if people want to talk, make an appointment. I'm taking appointments 8 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Well, let's not be shy about self-promotion, David. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you? Because I mean, we're not giving specific advice here.
No, not here. But if people do have a complex scenario or they're stressed, a quick phone call, 9863 3188, Melbourne 03 9863 3188, and if the query can be dealt with over the phone, so be it. If we need to have a consultation, so be it. But reach out, look at the government website. For the first time in a long time, the government website, imi.gov.au, is providing some good information, reliable information, not ambiguous information. People can find a lot of answers, but if those answers are not enough, reach out.
Now, are there any other visa classes that you wanted to cover off, David?
Well, partner visas. If you have a loved one overseas and you're applying for a prospective marriage visa, keep going. They take over 12 months to process. And, with everybody adhering to social distancing and flattening the curve, we should be out of this soon enough. But the story with people who've got partners overseas is keep on processing. If you've got a fiance in another territory and you're reluctant to lodge your prospective marriage visa, don't lodge it now. Don't be reluctant. Put it in the system. It will be processed. I don't know how quickly or how slowly, but they're not going to stop processing of offshore visas. The results and the processing and the outcomes may take a little longer, but if I had a fiance offshore, I'd be putting my application in tomorrow. Now, with offshore spouse visas, the same deal. These take more than 12 months to process, and it's onshore as well. This might push some people to lodge their partner visa when they maybe had second thoughts, because we don't know how long the borders will be shut for. And, if Jim and Jim, or Jim and Betty, or Betty and Sarah want to stay together, they should lodge their partner visa so long as they're eligible. Eligibility is determined by, of course, marriage for a partner visa, onshore, offshore, 12 months cohabitation, 12 months and a day, de facto cohabitation, registration under state law if they're onshore. But if you've got a partner and you're thinking about returning home, well, can you get home? One, and two, how long will you be away from your loved one for? So I'm saying to people who have second and third thoughts about partner visas, lodge it if you're here, lodge it if you're offshore. It will be processed.
Okay, it really does seem daunting. I mean, I'm seeing how some people are reacting, and their lives haven't been upended except for not being able to go to their office. They're still employed. They're still getting a paycheck. Things haven't closed down in terms of their employer. I can't imagine what it would be like being here on a temporary basis and not being able to go out. And I'm sure the hotels are profiteering.
We've heard horrible stories about profiteering across many sectors, and it's abhorrent behaviour that's been clamped down on.
And of course, if you had booked your stay at a hotel and you were due to leave, you're going to be competing with all the people who have come in on the rush flights in the packed airports, and having to self-isolate. All the competition for hotel rooms in the cities will be enormous.
Immense, absolutely
So,
immense.
so
And
I would hate.
I tell you who I tell you who we haven't touched on. We haven't touched on backpackers, people on
Well, that's
462 and 417 visas. Now, they traditionally, I mean, you backpacked a long time ago. I backpacked a long time ago, and we lived in dorms, cheek by jowl. 25 years ago, when I first, or 20, yeah, about 25, 26 years ago, on a trip to Italy, I bunked with 10 other guys. There were 12 beds in the room. Now, I don't think
I've got to give a joke there. YMCA.
wasn't YMCA.
Yeah, but
what,
were you all playing your Village People albums?
Do you know what it was? Do you know what it was, though? I'll tell you what it was. It was bed lights, and it was awful. But we're all in close proximity. Now, I don't think much has changed. I think you can get the odd single room in these backpacking units, but, these are going to be hotbeds for coronavirus. And, people who move from a hostel to a hotel are going to go through their $5,000 they bought to Australia very quickly.
So it's going to be backpackers and Hillsong conference attendees going to be and cruise ships are going to be the main vectors.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the backpackers, they're like the students, they're this eager and willing workforce, but when they go home at night, they go home typically to a hostel or share accommodation, and, we can't have, they're hotbeds for coronavirus, share accommodation, hostels. Dangerous stuff. So basically, I spoke to a guy the other day, and I said to him, look, if you're thinking about coming out on your working holiday visa, your 417 that's been granted, I said, really think carefully about coming, or you can't at the moment because of the ban, but when the ban is ultimately lifted, think twice, really think twice, because everybody's going to be getting back on their feet, and it'll be really hard to get work.
So are there any other looming tsunamis of problems that you see ahead that the government needs to jump onto quickly?
Well, as soon as we find out what's happening for financial and visa support for people on temporary visas, we'll do another one of these live podcasts. Absolutely, 100%. In the meantime, because it's visa system is still running, the visa system is still operating. We don't know how fast. You must not let yourself. I mean, I've said this a few times in this live podcast. People must not let their visas lapse. Must not. And anyone's not sure about what we're saying or is confused, they can give me a call and I'll talk them through it.
So we've covered off students. We've covered off tourists. We've had a word about backpackers. Anybody else we need to speak about?
We've talked about 482 and 457 visa holders. What I'd love to see is the points drop and an invitation round at 85, so all the doctors could express interest and make application for permanent residency, because there are a hell of a lot of doctors on 85 points waiting for a 189 visa that's 90 at the moment. We need those doctors. We've got those doctors in the system, but wouldn't it be nice to sort of thank them, for want of a better term, for their service and get them PR?
You know me, David. I'm thinking of all the countries that are not quite so well off as we are here, and they'll be screaming to get their doctors and nurses back home. Correct.
Yeah. Those people have a choice to make too, and whether they stay or go back. And it's pretty hard to stay if the country that they're working in hospitals for has a system of independent migration that's so tough that even the brilliant doctors and nurses are struggling to get the score required for independent migration. There are alternate ways. There are sponsored migration for these people, but I think, in my opinion, doctors and nurses deserve independent migration.
Well, I think it should be a bit broader than that. At the moment, you'd want someone who can set up a factory. You'd want someone who can set up a factory to make masks and ventilators.
Well, yeah, that's a very valid point. I mean, but in the immediate future, doctors and nurses need to be looked after, and such people you mentioned, absolutely. I think we've covered everything, mate. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I'm not even feeling upbeat enough to make any flippant digs at the government today. So
Oh no, we're all in it together. We're all in it together. Amigos para siempre. You know, we're in the same boat. Everyone's affected. It's the degree to which they're affected. We're lucky that we're citizens, and you know, our thoughts are with those who are temporary. And with any development temporary, I'll be putting it out on Twitter, on Facebook. We'll do another live stream.
yeah, and happy birthday, Leonard Nimoy.
How old did he turn? Leonard, Dr. Spock.
Yeah. I don't know. I just saw George Takai put out a great tweet showing the highlights and all the unknown facts about Leonard Nimoy today for his birthday.
I loved him in Star Trek, but I loved him even more in Search Of. Do you remember In Search Of?
Yeah.
That was a staple of mid-70s television.
Oh, yeah, Dave, how old are we, mate?
Well, this is good because I'm holding the iPad close. So when I get the stand for the next one, it'll be a little bit further back, so I'll be able to see how old I actually am. But I might shave to cover the grey.
Well, I've done a rough shave today. I had to get rid of the Santa Claus fluff. My social isolation beard was looking pretty shabby.
You have a good day. Stay safe. Breathe easy, mate.
Okay, and thanks. Oh, they've just disappeared. Yeah, David, we're going to keep putting out the regular episodes, but we'll make the social isolation lockdown phase go a bit easier by doing a few more of these live streams.
Correct.
And pop them out into the podcast feed and up on the YouTube and Facebook page for Migrating to Australia podcast. Now, if someone needs to urgently contact you, you've given out the phone
Office
number.
line.
Let's do that again.
98 Melbourne 03 9863 3188 9863 3188 Melbourne.
And of course on Twitter.
And on Twitter, David Bongiorno is my Twitter handle.
And the spelling is right there. I can see it.
That's it. DAVIDBONGIORNO.
And bingo was his name. Hey. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks everybody for paying attention.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Grant. Have a good day.
And if you're here on a visa, do not let the deadline catch up with you.
It's so
Take
important.
action.
If you take home anything, you can't take home this. You must hold a visa and apply for a new visa. Do not become unlawful under any shape or circumstance.
Because the detention centres have not been socially isolated.
Well, they haven't been isolated. I don't think people are going to be slotted into detention, but you just don't want to become unlawful in this confusing, ever-changing time.
Especially if you want to apply for a further visa.
All righty.
Cheers, mate.
Ciao, mate. Ciao.